Recorded for this?
Yes.
Okay.
How's it going, everybody? This is Carbo Load with Cosmic Lumberjack,
And Cato.
and today we're just going to be talking about some theories and stuff about some secret societies, how we're going to form our own secret society,
Oh, yeah.
what it's like, and everything on that tangent. So, secret societies, the topic of that just came about because it's just society nowadays. I feel like there's a lot of people could easily have like a Reddit group chat, something secretive like that, and Cicada 3301, I think that's what it's called. That was one of the secret society things that was started as like a puzzle thing. So what are your thoughts on that, Cade, and everything in general in secret societies?
So, I remember hearing about that, like, I don't know, a few years ago, like, back in high school. When they were, I don't know, so there was, like, a couple of years they did it, where there was, like, I don't know, do you know where it started? Where, like, was it?
I think 4chan, I want to say.
I could see it being 4chan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think whatever it was, it started probably on the internet, and then there was, like, this one puzzle, and it was... there's zombies, like Call of Duty zombies level Easter eggs trying to solve a puzzle. And then there's, like, this shit, which, like, I think, like, the first post is, like... Actually, I'm not even sure. I want to say, like, it came out saying, like, we're trying to get a group of people who are, like, smart to...
Yeah.
I don't know if they said join their community or something. But it started out with, like, this one puzzle, like, online... And then from there, it leads you to something else. And it wasn't just online. Like, you had to go into the real world, and there was, like, things that were in real life to find. There was, like... So, I want to say there's, like, a puzzle where, online, you have to crack a code. You get the code, you go to this one website. This website's all, like, cryptic and stuff, or it's not obvious, and you decode, like, a sound into another code, and it gives you, like, coordinates. You go to this area in the real world, and there's another puzzle there. And I don't know if it's confirmed, like, they know who solved it. I think there might have been some guy who said, oh, yeah, I figured it out, and I got through the whole thing. But I don't think people are sure whether he's telling the truth or not. I could be making, like, all of this up. But
Yeah.
this is just a vague recollection of what I remember.
Right, yeah. I think it's accurate. We're gonna say it's accurate. Yeah,
it's all 100% accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there was that. I think they did that for like 1 year, and the next year they had another thing of it, and there's more puzzles. And then I want to say it stopped for a little bit, and then it came back after a couple of years, but no one knows if it was the original thing. Kind of like like QAnon, like how. Originally, people think it was this one guy, but after a while, they think some copycat just came and, like, started doing stuff, but it wasn't the original Q.
Right.
But that seemed, like, really crazy to me. Like, I remember I wanted to, like, try and figure it out and stuff, but I had no idea how to start it. Also, like, people were so far along in certain puzzles, it's like, are you going to just start from the beginning? Or are you going to look and see what the current up-to-date is? And then even then, like, are you going to even be able to keep up with everyone else?
Right, because I would want to, like, you do something similar like that too, but it's just, like, I think you also needed to be good at, like, computer coding as well. So there was, like, a whole other aspect to it, and then I don't really have any skills in that regard, so, I mean, I would just be way behind. But also just to, like, test my intelligence, like, I wonder if I could think outside the box on this one.
Yeah.
But it's, like, it could literally be something that's, like, so out there that's like you're not even gonna like think about it, and that's gonna be like the solution to something. And it's just like it gets you like a bunch of these smart people now know each other, but it's like, how do we even know about this? Does someone like tell? Like, they probably had like experts analyze it, people working for the government also figuring this out, and then telling everybody else like, hey, yeah, this is how this like kind of works, or something like that. Because I'm sure it's not just like everybody who's just doing it is just out for themselves. There's going to be some people that are a part of like a bigger community. Yeah, exactly.
Trying to all crack it together.
Right.
Wait, so how did you hear about it? Like, Where'd you come across it?
I mean, I just used ChatGPT.
Oh, really? What?
Yeah, and then ChatGPT was just like, all right, yeah, this is something interesting, and I was like, oh, all right.
Did he give you
So
any information about it? Because I haven't heard about it for years about if it's still
I think
going on or anything.
it stopped in 2014, and then they also had like a couple of different like copycat versions based off of it. This one guy came out claiming to be a part of the group, and that he was like in this different group now, but like with a different bunch of like riddles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I feel like now people are just doing it because they just want to like they're bored and they're interested in like trying to solve some like random stuff. Um, but I mean, like if you, that's kind of like there's a lot of different like how do you start like a secret society? Like how would you do it? Like you have like this whole like code to like cipher, you got to decipher and then stuff like that. But then it's like, all right, that's still like anybody could do that. It's not like any specific type of people from one group can do it to be formed. It's like there's various unless there's like some riddle that it's like so vague that only someone in that mindset can solve it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess I don't know. For example, like someone's gonna if someone thinks maybe negatively or positive on life, and they have like one of the questions like, "What is the meaning of life?" or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then depending on how you answer that is how you're initiated into it, or something like that. So you have the right mindset, or maybe it needs to be a negative mindset so you're susceptible to join the cult, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like people would do that. I feel like definitely nowadays on the internet. So that's kind of like, this whole bunch, probably a lot of secret societies going on right now. I wonder who's listening to this one, in this podcast.
Yeah. If anyone's
Shut them
listening
down.
to this.
Yeah. And we just notice the views spike up a little bit. Like,
It's going off of like other secret societies and like how they're formed. Do you know about? Well, obviously the Illuminati, right? You've heard about Illuminati, right?
Yeah, and the Masons,
the Freemasons.
Freemasons.
So yeah, that's what I was gonna talk about. I was gonna drift from Illuminati to that, but the Freemasons. I got this book a while back about like the group. I barely read it, but it just talked about the origins of it, and it started. I think the origins technically go back all the way to like Egypt, ancient Egypt, where there's like the stonecutters or a mason, which is someone who cuts stone, and there was guilds that formed, and they were groups who would gather together and talk about like, oh, this craft should be blah blah blah. Then over time, the Freemason or the Masons, they started getting more influence because they're working with higher up people, doing like statues, and I don't know if they worked on the pyramids. I don't know.
Maybe the architects, possibly. That
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, I'll figure everything out.
Yeah. So over time, right, they gain more and more influence, and then the group, the Freemason, the Freemason Guild, whatever it is, they start getting further and further away from being about masonry, and they get more about how can we be. How can we influence this and that? And even the founding fathers of the United States, like a lot of them were Freemasons. And if you want to like believe the lore behind it, the Freemasons are kind of like the good guy secret society. Like, oh, we just want the best for the world, so we're gonna influence it through our means and who we can talk to and get us to do whatever.
And that's just based off of like them being the forefathers, or like the other lore behind it.
I mean, there's other stuff like I don't really know. I just know the founding fathers were in there, and their goal was to make the world a better place through influencing things,
Any means
influencing
necessary.
the world. Yeah.
No matter how many people have to die.
Yeah, but over time, like the Freemasons are still around. You can still become a Freemason.
But it's probably like different, I feel like.
It's
or
a
not as
lot
much?
more different. Like I saw a documentary or a YouTube video recently, like some guy who went through the process of joining and becoming a Freemason. And if you want to join, like you need to get someone to, you need to have I think 2 people who are Freemasons already recommend you to join. And on top of that, you have to go through like all the different initiation processes and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of Freemasons out there. Like it's not like it's this secret society that
Wow.
like
Yeah, I'm
no
surprised
one knows who's in it.
how do they have their numbers so high if it's so rigorous of like a training thing? I feel like they're just like, oh man, we don't have any numbers this year, guys. Like we need to up our numbers. Let's just make it a little easier for the next batch of people.
Yeah, I want to say if you are like a child of a Freemason, you have
You're
preferential access to like joining.
Treatment.
But I think there's even like where I am in Binghamton. I think there's an old Freemason like place. There's like Freemason temple on the side of this building, and
Oh wow.
the building's like closed down, so it's not like I don't believe it's still active.
Damn it.
But yeah, I really want to go in there. Dude, there's like
Bro,
a
let's
fence
just
around
get
it. I'm like,
initiated and see what the process is like. Like, what are they gonna?
I
They're
forgot
gonna
what
look
the
us
video
up.
was called. Dude, the video was sick. I was like, dude, the Freemasons, they're kind of like on Illuminati level. Like, it's like, oh, it's the Illuminati, but like, you don't think you're ever gonna meet someone or hear about how you get into it. It's like, oh, you know,
It just
back in the
happens.
day, you know, oh, they're just Illuminati. They're just there. But like, this guy went through the process of how you would join it. They have their own Bible too. A lot of times, have you ever seen a symbol on the back of a car where it's like the two like
Probably.
you know like the
two
you know a
twos?
compass, not 2 twos. You know a compass like for making circles.
A compass for making circles?
Yeah,
Well,
like
I
in
thought there was only
geometry.
one compass.
You know in geometry class.
Oh,
you
yeah.
have a thing and there's a pencil on one side,
Yeah.
and it's it's like this thing that's like that. Like
Yeah.
For our listeners, it's there's 2 points. You stick one thing that's pointing on one side, and the pencil's on the other.
Right.
So like the Illuminati symbol is like 2 of these, and then in the middle, I want to say it's an M, but I see it a lot more often than you would think on the back of a car, and I'm pretty sure that means that person's a Freemason.
So, like, what happens if you just get into a car accident with one of those people and you're like, fuck, I hit one of the Freemasons. I'm out. I'm dead, dude.
Yeah, you're probably done if you get in a car accident. They'll probably just take your car too.
Yeah, they'll probably take your life.
Yeah.
You're-
Dude, you just hit the wrong motherfucker.
Yeah. It's like the shittiest car, too. And it's like, good thing I hit that car and not an expensive one. Oh, wait.
Yeah. No, dude, I see it on like regular cars. It's not like it's like, a high end like Bugatti or
Right.
Maserati or whatever. Or even like a higher end car like a I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I thought those were higher end cars.
No, those are like high, like super expensive high cars. Then there's like
Even higher.
like right below that, not right below that, but like those cars that like
Jeep Wranglers.
are expensive. No, like a G wagon. Like a G wagon. It's like the Mercedes Jeep.
Okay. I know Mercedes.
Yeah, so like Mercedes has a type of car, the G wagon, which is it's basically a Jeep that like
Okay.
Mercedes makes, but it's a really expensive car. It's not expensive as like a Maserati or a Bugatti, but it's like a tier below that, or maybe a few tiers. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with all this Freemason talk, but I
Just got into cars, man.
I just had a lot of stuff going on from like that video I watched.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. So I mean, we're just gonna watch out for cars, but also back onto the secret societies. I was just thinking about like, I feel like there was a lot of like alchemists and stuff like that, and back in like yonder times, olden times, those were the secret societies back in the day. Those were like I don't know if any Freemasons were in a part of the alchemy guild or whatever, but apparently it became a secret society because it was not really that people didn't want to share what they found out. It was
Mhm.
basically science, like back in like this. I don't know. That 1600s might be when it stopped. I think
Yeah, that
officially.
sounds like it's near the end of it.
Yeah, but it was like science back then. That's what people did for science, and it was as if nobody shared any information about whatever they discovered because people thought that they were going to discover how to actually turn something into gold. So nobody wants to like spread that information. They want to keep that to themselves so then they
Mhm.
could keep doing it and make a profit. So that's why no one was able like those societies were formed in the first place because it was always like I'm going to benefit myself first, nobody else. People in the actual club, they're going to benefit whenever I learn that.
Mhm.
Um so that goes to the same with like that could be like with anything realistically. I mean, nowadays it's probably more than ever, not specifically alchemy of course, but in terms of just making success in life. And if somebody has like this secret way to like gain a one up everybody in life, it's going to be a secret. No one is going to, that's just obvious I guess, but it's also like it's probably a lot more abundant nowadays
Was more
than we
abundant.
people with information that they know how to like I guess get above everybody else, and then they're in like that sort of club or whatever, and they want to like keep that to themselves because they have the ability to turn something into gold. Uh, if it were up to me, I would be like, I would start a podcast and spread that gold everywhere. Like, listen, like podcasts are good for that. You spread information. Maybe it's not going to turn stuff into gold back like after you do that podcast, but it's like still, like you're not a one trick pony. You're gonna be able to like branch off from that at that point.
Mhm.
That goes to the same thing with like everybody in the when I say like yeah like the medical fields, isn't it like people don't want to, or like, or not even the medical field, just like in general with inventions. That's why people don't like telling people about what they create, and then it's like they have a patent on it, they can't create it for another so and so years, it's copyrighted. And that halts that's a reason for innovation, but also it halts it a little bit compared to like if we all like came together a little bit. So there's that whole like individuality that we like strive for, but also that really hinders us as moving forward completely. um so yeah, uh it's a mouthful, but I think that back onto the secret societies, they're everywhere. And even back in yonder times, you were talking about the pyramids before. Everybody was always just like wondering how the pyramids were built. Maybe they had like a secret society. They just wanted to keep it secluded. Uh, Personally, I saw this one video actually that was like it was an animation, and it was kind of like explaining how they would have done it.
Mhm.
And I don't know if is it actually possible, but like they had like this really expensive wood that they tied to all the blocks, and then the blocks were like floating, and they had them in water. They built like canals to pathways to the pyramids, and they cut all the stones like perfectly leveled because it was in water and the perfect angle and everything. Water came in clutch basically for building the pyramids. They like submerged it.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that too. That they, or I heard the theory that they floated it instead of dragged it all the way there. They
Yeah.
took it. Um, yeah, I'm just saying. I pretty much heard that too.
Yeah, like because I'm pretty sure, but a lot of people in the like comment section were also saying like, it's still a little too heavy for that. I don't know if it would work, but I mean like, I don't think it was aliens. Like you're just discrediting humans, dude.
Mhm.
Like we could do shit.
Yeah.
They don't know anything. So I mean, I feel like there was definitely like at least like some way we could do that, and then it was just like up to like the people who the architects to really like they were just crunched for time. They had to like do it. Then they were just like, all right, well we just forgot all this technology, or time goes on and people forget. So it's like I mean it's good now that we have everything written down and most of it's like being produced to the general public, but it's like eventually it's who's to say stuff isn't really far ahead right now at this point with all the
What
stuff.
What do you mean it's not far ahead?
like technology advancements and stuff like that. Like it could be like we could be millennia ahead right now and we just don't know yet. And it's just like very everybody's very
Oh,
secluded because of
the
these like
information that's not released
information
everywhere.
that's not released to everybody.
Um, like going back to building the pyramids, I heard another theory too that like ancient civilizations, right? There's Randall Carlson and not John Hancock, something Hancock. They're talking about like ancient civilizations, how they were probably a lot more advanced than we give them credit for, and one theory they have is that they could have been on a different trajectory of science than we are, and they could have been able to use different means of controlling and energy and moving things that we can't even like think about, because like we're on this trajectory of like, I don't know if they said like electricity and motors and turning that kind of stuff, but one theory, which apparently may even be possible, is by using sound to move things. Like how everything has like a resonating frequency. So
Right.
like if you make a certain frequency, some things will vibrate. And there's this theory that maybe they're able to move the blocks of stone by controlling the sound or controlling a frequency and like making it vibrate to move in a certain way.
Yeah.
And apparently there's some patents now that are patenting this kind of technology to move things without a motor, using sound waves to like move things.
And is that like also like safe for like hearing wise, or like we would just be fried if we like were in that vicinity?
So yeah, I think it would just be a frequency, not necessarily. So I think the thing that damages ears is the amplitude of waves, so how loud a thing is. The frequency is just how fast it's like vibrating. So it would,
Right.
you probably
Okay.
could be silent. Even if you go super fast
But
too, you wouldn't even hear it.
but like even if you can't hear it, it would still like do damage though, right? I feel like even if it like not perceptible to the human ear.
I don't think it would, because
Okay.
you could have it at a lower amplitude, so it wouldn't be as loud. Even if you don't hear it, like the waves could still be moving at the same frequency, but they wouldn't be as high up. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't look into how this would work in theory, so I have no idea how it works and the idea behind it. But that's just something I heard recently.
Yeah, because I feel like that could have that. Yeah, I mean, like, with ancient Egypt, I feel like they could have developed this whole like system using water more efficiently. They understood that, so I feel like sound for a different culture could have easily been like, you know, that could have easily worked. It's just there's a lot of different things that could just easily kill a society back then. So it's like now it's to the point where it's like not as easily we're not gonna die that fast. So it's like we're all supercomputers right now, and we're all just thinking of different ways to understand the universe. But as for the sound, I think the only real limitations of that would be like just if it was a thing, and then it's like yeah, we could use it on Earth, but like there's no you can't really change the frequency, and like I guess maybe you can in space, right? Like there's nothing, there's no amplitude, there's no frequency in space, right? Or is there?
Well, things would still vibrate. It just, you wouldn't be able to send it through the air into an object.
Okay, so yeah.
So I guess you might be able to put whatever it is that causes this frequency, like, on a block, and then maybe control it through like electric, like remote control. I just I can't even comprehend like how that would make it move in a certain direction you want it to. You know, like
Right.
I don't know if like you place this object or you place this controller on top of say a stone block in space, and then you want it to move to the right. How would you make it vibrate in a certain way that not only does it vibrate, but it causes it to shift to the right? Or in space too, you can go up or down.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like we don't really fully understand it, but I guarantee you there was a civilization that was like, all right, yeah, let's do this, and then they worked with it and they built on what they had, and then that's how it started. You can hear like the dog in the background, my bad. um, but yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Freaking
Like-
digital. It's a little rough to do
there's
a conversation.
it still works though. I like this a little bit better than in person because we still have what's it called, video now, thanks
Oh,
to
yeah.
Riverside. So that's really coming in clutch a little bit.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah. So all these different inventions are being like created now, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, we're not going to be able to really. I guess maybe it's for the best that it's not within our grasp just yet until we're actually, that's like a reason for us to be the innovators right now, and it's like a motivational factor. But for some, it's not because there's a lot of different things that can like really ground people into doing like monotonous things, and it takes us back a step. And it's like we have all these different industries, like even just like the news in general, that is just producing stuff that's not really news. It's just to get numbers up, to also like just get the audience there, and that's not really creating that much. But it's like there's so many factors to consider with this, because it's like you gotta get people to like, not everybody's gonna be able to be an innovator.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know what they're like. It's just different. It's like how we're functioning our brains psychologically, and in the United States we have a wide range of like people that can do things and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's like secret societies. There's probably like this whole like also like the social pressure to like do this one thing, and like it's a cult basically. But I mean, like, like it's just like a forcing people, motivating them to be like innovators in a way, but also to serve like what purpose in the end. And it's just like, oh, for our benefit. So it's just like not really anything that's like that doesn't sound like it's going to be like benefiting everybody in general. But I mean, I know it's. Some people say like the masses are stupid and they need some guidance, but it's still like
Sheep and the herder.
yeah, it's still not really that like you can't really trust that fully without a wide range of opinions that can really like say like, okay, but what about this? How are you guys doing this? You seem a little evil or something like that. But that's just my opinion.
Have you ever heard of JFK's speech of secret societies?
No, what did he say on that? Was that before he got killed? Coincidentally?
Actually, no. It was after he got killed. He can't know. No,
there's a recording they found.
It's dude, it's one of my favorite speeches of all time. He talks about how there's like people there's secret societies who keep things from the public, and you know what? The speech might have been called JFK and the Press, because he talks about how during this time, so in the early 60s, the press just tries to go out and make a news story out of something they say. Sorry, I'm looking up the the stuff. I'm pretty sure this is the one who talks about secret societies. John F. Kennedy's speech to the national press and the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. I've heard that hotel before, and I don't know if it's from this speech or if other scenarios. But he just talks about like there are secret societies out there, and it's not good for us to try, or in the government to like suppress what we do that's bad and only show the good things, because criticism is part of a healthy society, and
Right.
if we control what's going out there, then that's not good. We need to be okay with getting criticism back. There's a lot more stuff, but I saw a video too that had not only the speech, but it also had like pictures with it. And he talks about we have secret societies who control like things in I don't know. He describes like a bunch of things, right? And they put images of, I want to say it's of government organizations that like match up to what he's talking about, like the CIA, NASA, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah. Apparently, if this is the speech I'm thinking of, if it's the one to the national press, it took place in April 27, 1961. So he had about like 2 more years, a little over 2 more years before he got killed.
Okay. So it's not too coincidental.
No, but there's a lot of things that he was doing that could have led to his assassination. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go through a list of all the things that on top of my mind that like he totally could get killed for. There's that one.
You really thought about this?
No, I've looked into this so much.
Are you sure you didn't do it, Cade?
Well, no.
You have a lot of alibis.
He was going to sign this bill that was going to get rid of the Federal Reserve, and he was the last president to do so, or to attempt to do so.
Right.
I don't think he signed it. I think he got killed, and then Lyndon B. Johnson, the guy who took over after him, denied
overturned
the bill. Yeah. There's that. There's also the mob, who I think is pretty much confirmed that helped influence his election into either the president. I don't think it was the presidency. I think it was when he was going to be governor of, could be California. He might have been the governor of California.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure the mob helped him get elected there. So the mob had a hit on him. The banks had a hit on him. These secret societies had a hit on him. He didn't really do much for the civil rights movement, but I think I've heard.
I thought he did. Like he was the deciding like factor in that, but it was like.
Well, I think the civil rights. I think he might have done a little bit of stuff, but I remember hearing that he didn't want to. He didn't push as hard with it because if he did, he wouldn't have as much support for things. I think from the South, the southern states.
Right, but I think he had like the what's it called after like videos of when I think it was the kids were getting killed. That JFK had to like change his mind about that, and he was like, "All right, this isn't looking good. I have to do something like morally about this situation." So then he decided to like help out the civil rights movement.
Okay, well, if whatever his influence was on the civil rights movement, there's that aspect. So there's at least 4 things he could have got killed over. And then also Russia, just straight up. He was, Cold War.
So yeah. It's really about like all these different like secret societies are just shaping the individual to like make the individual more powerful, but by conglomerating a bunch of people. So it's like we can't really stop secret societies because they're everywhere, and it's also just it's about the individual. That's also what it's about. It comes down to because it's about the individual that becomes connected in a way to these other people that are still focusing on that one aspect. And so like that's going to be everywhere, but it's like, what do we actually is it good or bad? Because it's like it's always going to be there no matter what. I mean, obviously probably not in like most of the in like olden days, I guess, in like even during dictatorships, it's like the ruling class is the secret society at that point because they're not a secret society. They're like this. They're in charge of everything basically. and the only thing stopping that is like an uprising, from everybody in the public that's disagreeing with that, and that's why that's not a thing, because then the people who are in charge won't be in charge any longer after that. Hence why probably everything's like a secret now, but it's also like specifically like job oriented, that people have stuff that they want to get accomplished, goals that they have like these certain values, and when they want something to be done, they'll find a way to try and influence it in a certain way, and that's always going to be a thing. But how do you feel about that being how the United States is basically functioning right now? On like it kind of everything breathes and lives on a secret society.
So I used to think that secret societies, like just straight up like Illuminati. I think nowadays, first before I go deeper, but I think the term Illuminati now is more of just another word for the powers that be. I think when you say Illuminati, I don't think there's really the Illuminati that controls everything. But I used to think that like there was this Illuminati who had their puppet strings pulling everything. But now I've started to think that it's not so much this one group of people that control everything and decide where they want things to end up. I think there's a lot of factors. Like there's definitely secret society still. Did you see that documentary on Netflix, The Family?
Oh no, but I think I remember you telling me a little bit about it. That was what, that was a cult or something.
Um, I guess so. It was a very religious group, right? And there was this one guy. He was like a journalist, and he went to like different churches, religions, and he just wrote about like the religion stuff. And then he
Right.
found this group, and it was this like boys. It was kind of like a fraternity, but it wasn't connected to a school or anything. Um, they they basically just all did stuff together, and then they read the Bible and talked about Jesus. But then it turns out that this group of like young boys are also part of a larger group that's in the political world that influences that they have like all different kinds of presidents come, other political leaders, other high end people. They come in and they give them a good time, and they talk to them, and they network pretty much. But it's heavily based on Christian values, or maybe what their values are. They have their own Bible too. But their big thing, they really wanted Trump to be president. And they had, I think there's this whole idea that there's going to be this chosen one who's going to come and help us, lead us to this better world. And I think they pinned Trump as that guy. And whatever influence they had some influence on his election and just being in politics. So there's that. But I don't, because obviously if those are the only people in power, right, he would have got elected twice. But he didn't. So I think there's other factors too. There's also the deep state. Like, you ever heard people say like the deep state?
I in like Inside Job maybe.
So yeah, what the deep state is, it's this term for the people who work in government that aren't elected. They don't have a 2-year term, a 4-year term, or however long, where they have to be reelected by the people. They're the people who are just in there, like the CIA. They're hired by people. They aren't elected. They're there. George H.W. Bush, he was the head of, I think it was the FBI or CIA. It was one of the two. He was the head of one of those through multiple presidents. And then he so happened to become president. Granted, he was in a position where you would have experience leading and being in politics. But that's like a deep state idea. Like, there's people who are hired and stayed in there, and regardless of who's in president, whoever's in Congress, they are there doing their job, which is to whatever it might be. So some people say that that's like specifically like secret society, but anyone in theory could become a CIA member.
Yeah.
But they all have mantras in this idea that travels through people. Right? It's not like, there's the leader of the FBI, right? It's not like when he leaves, his goals and ideals like leave with him. Like it's ingrained into that society.
Right.
So there's that, and there's also like money that influence a lot of stuff. People want to make money, so banks, hedge funds, stock traders, whatever, they want to make money. So whatever helps them make more money is what they're going to go towards. So that's most likely they're going to all want to make more money and probably head in the same trajectory and influence whatever they can, however they can. So I don't think it's as much like secret societies who have like, oh, we have this master plan. There might be some things that do have that influence, but I think a lot of it is just a lot of groups trying to get advantage and doing what they can to do so, not necessarily like working together to get there.
I mean, I guess I agree a little bit, but like I feel like they are working together, but also they have like it's like these like what you were saying like with the family, you have this like this group of people, and then it's like an overarching group that sees that group and is like, I can take advantage of them, I can use them for this purpose, and then it's like it's taking influencing other people that already have influence over a certain group of people, and so that really like shapes how people, it's just like everybody's playing this influence game in general, just trying to like see who how we can get the most amount of people to agree on this. But it's like everybody's a little bit different, so it's like still like first you got to shape the certain individual to like fit into a category, and then once they're in that category, then they could be molded into following this one certain way. So overall in general, I think that like because of, and when I say like secret societies now, I'm just meaning like I guess just groups in general, because some people are just, that's how the influence game works. You just have to agree on certain things, and then you're part of this like group in general, and then you just have to like there's all these other certain factors to consider, like there's social pressures and stuff like that, but it's like that's not like they're not like it's not nothing crazy, at least. I mean, there are obviously some things that are blown out of proportion, and those are the ones that are like kind of cultish, and those are things that are like, okay, they're just dedicating their whole life to this thing. And then it's like, well, there's also like on a sub level, there's also just some subjects that people are just trying to like I guess follow these ideals, and then they can be easily influenced by like this other organization, and that's how the United States really functions. So I mean the deep state and like how they're really I guess hiring people. I mean that's like kind of the same with like actually like I mean politicians are just like they're just lying to the public to get people to vote for them. And then instead of that, for the CIA, it's like you do this job and then you're doing a good job. I guess everybody thinks you're doing a good job, at least in the company, and that helps you get the position for presidency through that way. And you don't. I mean, I don't know if George H. Bush was a politician after he was the CIA leader, director, or whatever like that, and
He
then
might have been a governor or congressman.
Okay,
A
yeah,
lot of
because
them
then
were.
that probably like helped him. Yeah, yeah, because you're still getting like leverage that way, and it's like it's really just like you need to gain these certain like powers, and then you can like pretty much handle your way up to the top seat, and that's what everybody wants because they have a lot more control over the situation. Um, but yeah, so a lot of groups are just trying to gain influence, and it's in the United States specifically. I think that's also why everything's leading to very opposing sides, because also it's like I mean it's not going to be like everybody's not just going to be like oh one influential like everybody's agreeing to one thing. Otherwise there wouldn't really if that were the case, uh we'd all be influenced. We'd all be in the secret society by now, and we're just not, because we're all like still disorganized because we want to be individual, but we're all being separated into like now everybody's like fighting and it's like two different opposing forces. For the most part, there's still other things to consider, but it's also, uh, like just, I guess, the same message of the United States. This is that. And then it's also like, not even just the United States, because also with the internet, it's worldwide at this point. Everything is worldwide. People are connecting through like a lot of different things. It's just we're in these subcultures that are now constraining us right there, and then it's locally. That's why we have more control over situations. So, overall, I think that secret societies are just the way humans function in general, is just always leading for us to be herded and controlled, but also just like we don't want to be controlled, but we want to have this like the feeling of freedom, of just like being there and thinking that we have control because we vote for people to vote for people to put this law into place, but it's not really up to the single individual to do all that, because even the single individual is already doing all these favors. That politician that's doing the votes is, he has to like come in clutch for that one guy that got him the position or something like that. So in general, there's no way to get around these secret societies, and it's not really going to be that big of an issue for us, because there's always a group that we can form to like fight against that. It's just we need to, I guess, have knowledge of that. It's the only real issue, is inventions that can also just put people one group ahead of the other group. But we humans don't like to be together. They don't like to come together as one group, huh? As one species,
In what way are you talking about?
People don't want to like come together. I mean, there's just like the way you see everything, and like in general, it's like we don't like to come together. For instance, like, and I think that, I'll try to get into it more, but I want to use this example of like, I guess I feel like we're all just, that's just evolutionary speaking. I feel like that's because we're all branching out into different species, quote unquote, and that's how we're supposed to evolve, and that's the DNA of life, to like branch out. That's why there's so many different species on Earth, because they all wanted to be different in their own regard. And because if we were all together, and then I think we all just got along, we wouldn't change as much and we wouldn't evolve differently. And so then like something in the code in our DNA wants us to evolve differently, wants us to be different from the other person. And so that's like really what like causes all of these things to happen, I guess, like that. But I mean, like, like also just countries in general, like, like there's, why aren't we, let's just disband all the countries, let's just come together, everybody. And it's like there's still a lot of like people want to be separate a little bit. I mean, like, but it's in the United States, it's more open, but also it's still like there's a lot of conflict going on when there's no borders. So it's now there's more tension between everybody, because now it's all face to face with all the actual more emotions, I guess, with everybody. And it's like, that's what I mean by that. Like, we really don't want to come together as much.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, like the fighting between people is through differences in ideas, which is, I feel like that's the cause of most fighting in war. It's like
Crusades. My religion's better.
Yeah. So it's like we all have our own tribe, which has a similar thought process, and like because we have different ideas, we all think like, oh, our idea is right. So, and we don't want to give up our position, and that causes conflict. And like different ideas, like it goes back to like, yeah, as you said, crusades, like religion, huge thing. Like my religion's better than yours, whatever reason it might be. Or then it also goes back to like like race. People have issues like, oh, I think my race is better than your race, or we just don't like that race. I think that's also why we have countries. Like we have, this is our tribe, quote unquote, and I think that's also a problem why we have so much conflict in the United States is because we are like 50 different countries trying to be one thing. On top of now the internet too, which you can have a tribe that is nowhere around you physically. You could be connected to a tribe online and have different ideas than everyone around you, which could just cause problems with those close to you. Not physically, not, in your tribe. And I want to say, like, we're not going to give up, like, countries. I think the only, like, we're just at a time, it's kind of crazy that, like, countries' borders and countries are just, like, I was about to say that they're very stable for looking back in history, but actually in the 90s, they broke up the Soviet Union, and then countries came up out of nowhere. Is Crimea even a country now, or did Russia take that? I said that happened a couple of years ago.
Wasn't that a part of Ukraine, or no? I have no idea.
Is a peninsula in Ukraine.
Yeah, I don't know the status of the war in Ukraine right now, though.
It says that's been occupied by Russia since 2014. So I don't know what that means. Oh, this says Ukraine is not going to militarily retake Crimea. So I don't know what that means as an identity of Crimea. Also, we can go to the World War One, which, like, the Balkans. You remember the Balkans, the powder keg of Europe?
Right. That's like what started everything, like all the alliances with Arch Ferdinand.
Well, not just that, like that area. I think they were divided up into countries, but people who were in those countries were like, why are we one people? Like, I don't like that guy on the other end of the country. Like, we're different people.
Right.
Why are you grouping us? I could be getting this wrong, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure they were like, we're not all the same people. Oh, you know what? I think the whole area was mixed of different groups of people. Like, people say, like gypsies, like they don't have a land. They just go from place to place.
Yeah.
So that they're a group of people, and like they consider themselves like a nation. Okay, perfect example. Asgard in Marvel.
Yeah.
And, like they don't have a land anymore. They said Asgard. Right? They said Asgard is us, the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're refugees. They're trying to find a new land, and they go to wherever, and they make a new country. But like before then, they had their own place. But now they just travel, and you can't lock them in geographically to like, you're these people. You're not, Germans aren't Austrians. Like, there might be people who are a group of Austrians in Germany that are just like, we don't identify as German, so don't govern us or identify us with these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep going off on tangents, and I just don't remember where I was going.
I mean,
what we were talking about.
Well, I could bring it back to like a random point that, like, I guess it feels like that, we, back to like psychologically speaking, we have this like neighbor next to us, and we're just living next to them, and then we just see that they're doing okay, and then all of a sudden our house is on fire, and we ask them for help, and they just stand there and wait for the fire to burn down the house so they can take over our house, and they'll have twice the amount of property. So then that motivates us, and we're like, fuck, I'm going to put this fire out. And then they put the fire out, and then it's like, all right, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore, neighbor. So then now that starts how this sort of like disparity of like, okay, you didn't help me to begin with for this issue, so I'm not going to help you with any other future endeavor you have, any problem.
Hmm.
And that creates this sort of like proudness, yet also like psychologically that's how people I think work in a way that they just want to be proud, and that creates the separate ideas like, you didn't conform to the idea of helping me, so because of that I'm going to take that as a sign of I'm not going to help you, and I'm going to treat you the same way. And it repeats this endless cycle unless there's this one revolving door, I guess, or opening where they change and then they're like friends. So that position is still kind of like being waited upon for like, I guess, if that is a thing for like certain countries, then they'll after time, after good exchanges, then I guess they can like they don't really care as much if there is anything like between that. But I mean, for the most part, that it just comes down to the psychology of people wanting to be proud and wanting to say I did this not with your help. I don't need your help now. So why should I? And that's just a main factor. So pride is just stopping people from connecting more, I think, in my opinion. What do you think pride has a factor on?
Yeah, I could see that, but I also think that like we are social creatures that do want to connect with other people and have our group. I think it's when we have a group that we think is the best and the right way to live, and then we find another group that doesn't agree with us, that problems arise. Um, have you ever heard of like people who would say like secret societies, like the way they control is by dividing the masses by saying like, oh, you guys hate each other, um, like okay, so secret societies, right? Let's say they control the United States. The idea is that like there's Democrats and there's Republicans, and for the most part, most people just want the same things, but through their influence through the media and other ways, they divide the two groups into thinking they hate each other. So we fight and not see that it's really the same person controlling both sides, and that we don't see that they're really in control and not us. That we're fighting over nothing, or even like fighting over race and stuff. By saying like, oh, there's problems here, there's problems there. You guys are at war with each other.
But I do think there are like certain like problems that exist, like, but like that should be issued, and then there's not, because that's like also like a touchy subject to say that there's no issues with race or something like that. So I think it's also just like the fact of like one side is influencing a group of people, and that like the other side is also influencing another group of people, and it's not that they're like behind the same influences, or there's like they're just trying to like both are trying to like gain influence, I guess, to a certain degree, and the only thing stopping one from taking over fully is just comes down to the fact that like the basic individual of psychology, that they don't want to conform to just one opinion. And so like breaking down that even further, that's why I was going with like the pride thing. Like that's why we don't want to do that. Specifically, we don't want to break down, we don't want to go all the way down there into like what makes us, we don't want to conform basically to like certain things based on what we just don't want to do it. And so that's what really causes a lot of the issues for people, I think.
What causes that we don't want to conform to?
Yeah, you don't want to change your mind about something that you
Oh yeah.
based your life around, and you're like, man, if I change my mind on that, I'm gonna seem really stupid. I'm just gonna say nah to that one, and then like defend your case more, and you'll
Yeah.
psychologically come up with some reason to back up your motives, so you still feel happy, and you blame the other person for not being right in a certain situation, and it's not going to change because of that reason. You don't want to make yourself feel stupid.
Yeah, you've connected so much with this idea that you don't want to say that that idea is wrong because you feel that you're saying that your life's a lie, or that, yeah, again, you're stupid, so it's embarrassing to convey, even when you know you're wrong. Like you don't want to give in just out of pride.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like just the main thing that's like causing people to not really like come together as a whole thing. And it's like, what, evolutionary speakingly, like, why did we have this thing called pride to begin with that makes us want to be different and stubborn against each other's ideals? And that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
I don't know if it's necessarily pride as much as it's not wanting to be humiliated, embarrassed. Because you
Yeah.
could be, like, you could be proud about, what you did, and other things that are not coming to mind. But, like, embarrassment is huge. Even if at the end of the day, you really aren't going to be embarrassed. It's an internal feeling of, like, you're at odds with yourself. Of, like, you believe this for so long, but you're wrong, and you know it.
Yeah, so your brain just continues backing up your arguments.
Yeah.
Until you actually believe that you're right to begin with. And then that's why so many people are just having this inability to, like, really come together sometimes. So how do we solve this in the future? We make it easier for people to disagree. Yeah, I don't know.
I think the way to solve it is that people need to disconnect what they think are fact or an idea from themselves, and, like, you're allowed to change your mind on something.
Yeah.
Which that's a huge thing, and I don't know if that's ever possible for human beings.
To, like, understand that, hey, you can make a mistake. It's possible. You're only human, like.
Yeah.
But people are just so stubborn about it, I guess.
Yeah. You're only human unless you're got Neuralink, and then now you're
Yeah,
cyborg.
and then they'll understand. Oh, I was wrong. I have the chip. I realized. But yeah, any final thoughts for this podcast, Cade?
I think we should take out the Illuminati.
Yeah. Let's just fucking nuke them.
Yeah.
Sorry if you're an Illuminati member. Just kidding, JK. We're just targeting the Freemasons instead. And yeah, so that'll be pretty good.
Word.
For everybody involved. So,
Get
all right.
Bro.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Carbo Load with Cosmic Lumberjack.
And Gato.
Signing out. Peace.
Peace.